Hey, it's Sarah here. Welcome back for another Moose and Adventure. Today's is going to be a little bit differently. I'm going to go through 8 do's, things that you should do for Oogie Boogie Bash, and 5 things that you should not do for Oogie Boogie Bash. If you want to go back, you can watch our video of us actually going through Oogie Boogie, but this is going to be our do's and our don'ts. And I'm going to start out with the don'ts. Don't ride the rides. Now, this is really tempting to want to ride the rides because the lines are crazy short, but don't ride the rides. If you're going another day or if you have a magic key, don't waste the event on the rides. The rides are something that you can do all of the time. Instead, take advantage of the things that you can only do during that event. Number 2, don't be afraid to wear a costume. Lots of people dress up. The first year we went, right after COVID shut everything down, I didn't wear a costume. And I got to admit, when I got in the parks, I was like, I was kind of bummed out and really wished that I had worn a costume because everybody was wearing them and they were super fun. But wear good shoes. I wear flip-flops all the time. I love flip-flops. They're my go-to. That's what I wore with my costume. My husband went as Pedro, not as Pedro, but as, I can't remember his name now, from what's the movie called? Napoleon Dynamite. My son talked him into wearing the moon boots with his costume because that's what he does in the film. And albeit his costume looked amazing, he got comments on it all over the park that night, but he hated that decision and he ended up not liking the event very much. In fact, about halfway through, he was like, I'm done. I just want to sit on a bench. But I'm going to get to that a little bit later because that a little bit worked out in our favor as one of the do's. But anyways, just make sure you wear good shoes, even if it doesn't necessarily fit the theming of your costume. But definitely don't be afraid to wear a costume. Number 3, don't skip the treat trails. A lot of the really cool characters are on the treat trails, so don't pass those by. Also, don't be afraid to stay in the treat trails a little bit longer. Some of the treat trails kind of rush you through. Cruella de Vil was one where they kind of keep that line moving, but there are times of the day that you can go where it's not as crowded. Also, like we did I can never remember his name because it's not a movie I watch all the time, but like the treat trail with the judge from Roger Rabbit, that was one that we were able to stand up in the front and watch for a while, and we actually even got to watch him dip a tune. So that was one, if you hurry through, you're going to miss most of that character interaction. He was so cool. Another one that they move you through kind of quickly is Ernesto de la Cruz. But the way they've set it up is that if you walk all the way through the line, you can come back through the backside and you're actually going to get to stay there and watch his show and maybe even get to have a personal interaction with him. So that's super cool. Don't skip those treat trails. Don't be afraid to linger a little bit longer as well, if it's an area that they'll let you linger in. Number 4, don't just go for the candy. I think that was our biggest mistake that we made the first time was we're like, candy, we want all this candy. And so we did like candy trails over and over and over again. And then when we got home, we were like, really bummed because we missed out on a lot of the cool characters. Now, don't get me wrong, candy was cool. And the first time we did the candy, to us, it was junk candy. It wasn't even candy we liked. So I really don't know why we did that, but we did. This time around, we got the candy, but we weren't in it for the candy. So if you're just in it for let's get lots of really cool candy, skip the event. Just go to the grocery store and stock up on loads of candy that you like. It will save yourself money. You won't have to carry around the park and you won't go home feeling disappointed if it's not your favorite candy. Number 5, don't think that you have to wait in line to see the actual characters. I don't remember this villain's name. I should have looked it up beforehand, but the one in Baymax or by Baymax, his line was incredibly long, probably because he's new this year. So we walked by him and we saw him from the outside, but we never waited in that line because we didn't want to waste our time in that line. Same with the Sanderson sisters and the Kingdom of Hearts. Their lines were so long. So we looked at those lines and we were like, if we wait there, we might end up having to miss stuff later on that we want to see. So we actually skipped those lines. And you can skip those lines. And if there's time later at the end of the night, go back to them. But we still got to see those characters. So don't don't be afraid to skip a couple of lines if the lines are super long. Okay, so those were my don'ts. Now on to the do's. My first do, find an area that you want to be in and stick to that area. Going back and forth is going to waste a lot of time during the night. You're going to kill your feet. And keep in mind that the event itself is not super long. So stay in that area and try to hit as many characters as you can. Along with that, there are meet and greets. We found the meet and greets by accident. I didn't look on the map super closely, but if you go up in that main hub, kind of right before it splits into the different lands in California Adventure at the end of Buena Vista Street, there were so many cool characters up there. We got to see the sheriff and we got to see Prince Han. We missed the witch because we got there right as she was swapping out. And I don't know who comes with the sheriff. I think it actually the night we went was Captain Hook. We didn't wait for Captain Hook because we knew that we could see Captain Hook in Disneyland. But they had really cool characters up there for meet and greets where we got to talk to them. We got to get autographs. We got to take pictures. And the lines moved really quickly. And we also got to watch the cool show on Carthay Circle while we waited. So make sure you do that. Along with that, I'm going to throw in there that keep in mind when you're picking that area, we did not watch the first parade. We watched the second parade, but we found out that if you're there for the first parade, you're going to be stuck in an area. I highly recommend getting stuck by Ernesto de la Cruz. That's what we did completely by accident. If you're back there, you can also go and see Cruella de Vil. But Ernesto de la Cruz was really cool. He left while we were there right before the parade came back really quickly afterwards. But in the meantime, we were like, well, we're back here, we're stuck. And we went through that treat trail like, I think 3 or 4 times. And by the last time that we were out there, Ernesto de la Cruz had come out and we were sitting in the area where we could watch him or standing in the area where we could watch him. There was like nobody in there. And he actually picked AD to come up and interact with them. And they got a really cool interaction, like where they were talking back and forth to each other. He actually gave him one of his white roses. Fun fact, Ernesto de la Cruz gives out white roses, which is so cool. And that is one of our treasured things from that night. In fact, we let it dry and it's sitting on our counter right now. So that was a really cool place to be stuck. But keep in mind that whenever that parade starts, you are stuck in that area. 2, bring a refillable water bottle and fill it up before the event. I had a refillable water bottle, forgot to fill it up, and we were in drought for a while. We were so thirsty, especially when you've got all that candy. We also brought our autograph book because we were hoping that there'd be character interactions. They were at that main hub. We got a couple characters that we would never have gotten to see otherwise. So that was really cool. Also bring an extra bag for candy. The first time we went, we did not have one. And I ran into the store really quick and bought one of those reusable bags. That's what we brought again this year, but I actually bought it before the event knowing that we were going to need that because we got so much candy. Also, as part of number 2, eat beforehand. We did not eat beforehand. And my husband about halfway through the event was just saying, all I want to do is eat. And that burned about 30 minutes of our event was, I'm going to say wasted. My husband would say it would not wasted. I suppose it was not wasted because it made him happier and he wasn't as grumpy. But we did a lot of walking. But it wasted about a half an hour between the time, of trying to get the food, waiting in line, even though we mobile ordered it, waiting for it to get prepared, and then just actually eating it. So eat beforehand. I also highly recommend buying the merch beforehand so you're not wasting event time. We bought ours before the event. Not going to lie, it was probably the longest line we waited in all night, but really, really glad that we bought it before the event, although the drawback was that we did end up carrying it to the event with us. Number 4, go to the parade. It is so, so cool. The first time we watched it on Hollywood Street, is that what it's called? What's the official name? We always call it Hollywood Street. Over by like PhilharMagic. Highly recommend that spot. Nobody was up there. I don't know if they were up there this year. This year we were on our way trying to get back to see Lotso really quick before the parade started. This is where Lloyd not having good shoes was sort of a plus for us because we left him right in front of Little Mermaid and he saved spots for the parade for us while we quickly ran to Lotso and came right back. And we luckily got back just in time for the parade to start. Definitely watch the parade. It's so, so cool. And it's also not super long, which is disappointing because it's such a cool parade, but also really cool because it gave us more time to do the other things that we wanted to do as well. Number 5, if you're keeping track of the do's, is go early. Go when it starts. You can get in at the park starting at 3 o'clock. There aren't lines. They're going to get you right in. They're going to give you your wristband. And incidentally, if you're going to do the rides, that's when I go do the rides. Do the rides at 3 when you first get there. Also go camp out for an area because some of those attractions get really crowded. This is actually going to go hand in hand with my next one, but we sort of messed up this part. And if I could go back in time, like rewind, I'd do this a little bit differently. The only thing we had to base off of what we wanted to do first was the cast preview night. And for the cast preview night, the line for the judge from Roger Rabbit was from it's right behind or right next to Soaring Over California. And their line that night started there and went all the way to the shops on Buena Vista Street. So we're like, oh, we're going to go to the judge. And I don't know that we were wrong for preview nights or for the opening night to go there because there were quite a few people that went there. But in hindsight, knowing that later on in the night, we just walked right on in, we would have started with the Sanderson sisters or the Kingdom of Hearts characters because those lines were so long that we actually skipped it and never did go see those characters. And that would have been cool to see them. But this also goes hand in hand. Oh, and you can camp out. So like, even though the event has not officially started, I would go about a half an hour to an hour earlier and just kind of stand in that spot, knowing that those characters are going to be cool. If those are a character you really want to see, start there. But this also piggybacks with my number 6, which is number 6. I held up 10 fingers. Number 6 was to be flexible. We went and waited for the judge, and the cast member came out about 20 minutes before the event started and said that the judge was not going to be out there when the event first started. I don't know if it was just the opening night logistics or something going on, but that he was not going to be there, but the treat trail was going to be open. So we're like, oh, well, we don't want to wait here for that then and waste our, I was going to say rope drop. It's not really rope drop, but it sort of is. Because right next to that was Mother Gothel. So we're like, okay, well, we'll just go over to Mother Gothel. Well, we get to Mother Gothel and she wasn't there. So we're like, or she wasn't going to be coming out. And luckily I asked about 5 minutes before the event started and they were like, no, Mother Gothel's going to be a minute. We haven't set up the treat trail yet. You know, it hasn't happened yet. So then we were able to go and get in line for Bruno, which turned out to be really cool. He was a character meet and greet. I don't believe he signs though, right? I don't think he signs during the event. It was so much fun. That just brings me back to just be flexible. So by the time we were done with Bruno, we did go back and see Mother Gothel, and later on in the evening, we were able to walk straight through the treat trail line with the judge. But if that's like the whole thing you're basing your thing on, just don't let that ruin your whole night. Just be flexible. I've totally lost track. I thought the last one was number 6, but I might be off because I have in my notes this is number 6. So maybe this is number 6. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But definitely go to Villains Grove. But I am going to tell you this. There are no characters in Villains Grove. So if you're looking for characters and strictly characters, then don't go in Villains Grove. The Villains Grove is they've done all these really cool lights and music, and there is not a treat trail, so you're not going to see any actual characters and you're not going to get any candy. But do go there because the way they've done it, oh, so cool. There's projections, there's lights, and it's a music, and it was absolutely phenomenal. But do have the right mindset that you're not going to see characters and you're not going to get candy or you will be disappointed. Keep in mind, too, that does not open until after dusk because of all the lights and the projections. It needs to be dark. And it's a decently long line. At least it definitely was when we went there. But the line moved pretty quickly until we got inside. And then it was a little bit slower with all the people because you can stop and you can watch it. Good point. Who was also reminding me that when we went through, it only took us 20 minutes to walk through, although it looked decently long. But at the beginning of the night, when it first opened, I believe it was an hour plus. And we just kind of hit it at the right time. Maybe go a little bit later in the night. That's when we hit it was right before the parade and before we tried to dash back to see Lotso. The second parade. Because not as many people, I think a lot of people tried to hit that first, but definitely go see it. And number 7 is brush up.
This is number 8.
Are you sure?
Yes, you did 6. The last one was 7. This is 8.
I don't think so, because I think I got off on my things.
Yes,
it doesn't even matter what number this is. 10,
and then you're like, wait, no, 6. So
I know. No, I was off on my thing. It doesn't even matter, though. So brush up on your villains before you go. I did not, I have to admit, sorry, Disney, I don't think I've ever watched Roger Rabbit in its entirety. That I know I haven't watched Roger Rabbit in its entirety, but I knew who he was. And I knew that his whole deal was to dip the tunes and that he's out to kill tunes and get rid of tunes. So I knew that going into it. So when we got to see him actually dip a tune, it was super, super crazy cool. So you don't actually necessarily have to watch all the movies, but at least be kind of familiar with who the characters are, because that will make it a lot cooler. There's so many characters that the only way you can see them is at that event. And that's what made it cool for us, was that we kind of knew who they were, and that's who we specifically went for. And number 8, why am I holding up 6 fingers again? Double check that my mic's still on. Number 8, my last of all these do's and don'ts is stay until it ends. I go to the park a lot, and I see so many people leave the event early, and I'm like, what are you thinking? You paid extra to go to this event. There's things that you can only do at the event that are not normally there. Stay all the way to the end. We stayed all the way to the end. We went up, and we really wanted to see Ernesto de la Cruz again. So I think we went through, and we hadn't seen Oogie Boogie yet. Now I'm trying to remember. So like during that I believe it was the last 45 minutes of the event, we saw Oogie Boogie. Actually, he was our very, very last thing we did. But we were able to see Oogie Boogie. We went through Cruella de Vil twice. We went through Ernesto de la Cruz and watched him for a little bit. But we did so many things, because by the end of the night, people were starting to trickle out during that last hour, and we took advantage of that. So my big recommendation for that end of the night is go either pick a character that you really wanted to see that you didn't get to see yet, or take advantage of the fact that the lines are going to be short in an area. And we got so much candy in that last little bit, because there was so much candy in Cruella de Vil and in Ernesto and in Oogie Boogie, and we just took advantage of those short lines, and we got to have really cool character interactions because nobody was there. That's also when we saw Madam Mim again. I'd forgotten that we saw Madam Mim on the way back there. We packed so many treat trails and so many characters into that last 45 minutes to an hour. Do not skip out early. Stay all the way to the end. It was so cool. Those are my do's and don'ts for Oogie Boogie Bash. Let me know in the comments below if you're going. And if you have gone, let me know, what would you add as a do and what would you add as a don't to make your night even more magical, because I'd love to incorporate into what we do next year when we go. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you real soon.